House Democrats are holding their leadership elections today. They are meeting behind closed doors on Capitol Hill. Current House Caucus Chair Hakeem Jeffries of New York is running unopposed to replace Nancy Pelosi as leader. That will make him the first black person to lead one of the two major parties in either chamber of Congress.
CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion is covering this from the Hill for us. Nikole, how does this voting process work, and what are some of the other notable roles looking to be filled?
Yeah, well, in terms of the top leadership spots, it should be pretty seamless since they are all running unopposed and are expected to be approved by unanimous consent. And so that new leadership team, which we have discussed before, includes Hakeem Jeffries, who is currently the Democratic caucus chair, now running to become minority leader in the next Congress. Congresswoman Catherine Clark, who now serves as the assistant speaker, who is running for Democratic whip, and Congressman Pete Aguilar, who is a member of the Select Committee, also vice chair for the Democratic caucus, who is running for the caucus chair position. So those are the three leaders who are expected to be elected today. There's a fourth slot, assistant Democratic leader, that is expected to be filled by Congressman Jim Clyburn, who now serves as majority whip. And then in addition to that, there were a number of other leadership-related elections that will be taking place today and over the course of tomorrow, in addition to some rules changes for the Democratic caucus.
So Jeffries discussed his goals for the job with reporters last night. What did he say?
Well, you know, it was a pretty wide-ranging discussion that he had with reporters, including CBS News. And, you know, what he said is that he is aiming to be as successful as possible in this position and do the best job that he can. And so he talked a lot about the leadership changes, in particular, how he may work across the aisle with somebody like Leader McCarthy, who is nominated to become the next House Speaker, saying that, you know, moving forward, it is my hope that House Democrats can find common ground with Republicans to get things done. He did say prior to that, though, that he feels that he has been relatively gentle in terms of his dealings with Kevin McCarthy, even though sometimes there have been a war of words between both parties. And he said that, you know, look, sometimes I am just responding to the things that McCarthy has said that I find to be outrageous, particularly if he's calling members on my side of the aisle extreme when he has an extraordinary group of members who fall into that same category. But that being said, he said that he has an open mind and is willing to sit down with Leader McCarthy and other Republicans on the other side of the aisle in the interest of trying to get things done for the American people.
So in that aspect, Nikole, what are you hearing about this tentative agreement to block a rail strike? What more can you tell us about where things stand?
So we do know that House Democrats are discussing that in their caucus meeting this morning, and we expect the House to take up a resolution to address this at some point today. This is something that Speaker Nancy Pelosi has made a priority, and this would be a resolution that would be on a tentative agreement that has already been reached between some of these rail unions, even though they don't all see eye to eye and agree on the agreement that has been put forth. So that being said, the bigger challenge is not so much the House, but in the Senate in terms of whether or not there will be enough votes and support there. Leader Schumer has said that he and Leader McConnell agree that this is something that should be taken up right away. But even Leader McConnell acknowledged yesterday that, you know, some of his members may have concerns about this agreement, although collectively leaders here on Capitol Hill agree that they don't want to have a rail strike, that should be averted if at all possible, simply because it could cause economic catastrophe and cost the economy some $2 billion a day.
So we do have bipartisanship in another area, though. The Senate voted to pass the Respect for Marriage Act. It ensures same-sex and interracial marriages will be recognized in every state. So how did that happen, and what happens next?
So this was the culmination of a lot of negotiations here on Capitol Hill, particularly in the Senate. This legislation really emerged in the wake of the Dobbs decision when Roe versus Wade was overturned. And while that was strictly dealing with abortion rights, then there was greater concern that same-sex marriage rights and other rights could be next. And so the House passed some legislation earlier this year. The Senate kind of modified that. And so in essence, what they ultimately finally came to agreement on, with the support of 12 Republicans and Democrats, is this bill that would codify marriage protections into law for both same-sex couples and interracial couples. It does not legalize same-sex marriage across the board nationwide, but it does require the federal government and states to recognize marriages that have been performed that are legal in any state. So that is being celebrated by advocates and certainly by those who supported this legislation. It'll go back over to the House for them to approve this Senate version before it heads to President Biden's desk.
All right, Nikole Killion for us. Thank you.
You bet.